In this video, I'm going to give you some quick and easy editing tips and some things to consider when you are editing your macro photos. The first thing you want to do before you start is to crop your image. Unless you feel like the composition you already have is good enough, then I recommend to always crop your image to get the best composition possible. 95% of the time, I will end up having to crop my images because it's rare that I have a composition that I'm happy with straight out the camera. For side profile shots like this, it is usually best to go with a rule of thirds style composition because showing some of the background or the foreground in your photo will give your image context. Like with this photo, just by looking at it, you can tell that it is on the edge of a leaf. If I were to do a tight crop on this image like this, then it wouldn't be as appealing because of it appearing cluttered. The first thing I do in editing is sharpen the image. This will just give the details in your photo an extra boost, but just be careful and not overdo it when sharpening, and it's pretty easy to tell if you did overdo it. If you see white halos like this around your subject, then that's a sign that it is over sharpened. And also just go by your eye test. If you feel like your image looks a bit off, then you probably did overdo it. If you want to only sharpen the subject, you can go to quick selection tool and select subject, and it will only sharpen what you have selected. The only reason why I don't do this is because my computer is slow and it always takes forever when I do it. So I'll just sharpen the whole image and fix the noise later. Next, I'll go over the camera raw filter and make adjustments to the light, colors, and effects. Starting with the effects, I will up the texture and clarity a little bit. Doing this will give the textures in your photo an extra boost. Then I'll go over to color and I will up the vibrance. I like to increase the vibrance instead of the saturation because instead of increasing the color intensity on all the colors in a photo, vibrance will selectively intensify certain colors that are more muted, like blues and greens. Overall, the use of vibrance is a good way to make the colors in your photos stand out a little more without overdoing it by increasing the saturation. The Selective Color tool is very useful if you want to adjust a specific color in your photo. A lot of times, colors like greens and yellows will tend to blend in sometimes, and the Selective Color tool can be used to adjust the two colors separately. After I finish all the color corrections, I will begin painting some artificial light onto the photo. This works best with photos that don't have dark backgrounds. I do this to give the background an extra boost. Adding extra light to your photos can sometimes create more interesting backgrounds instead of it being one single shade of a color. For this image, my goal was to have the light come from the top middle of the frame and have it come all the way to the big water drop on the leaf. Whenever I paint light, I will usually paint the opposite side a dark gray for a good contrast, and for this photo, I kept the underside of the leaf dark while also darkening the sides to keep the focus on the middle of the frame. A quick tip is that when adjusting the radius and Gaussian blur, just remember that the higher the radius is, the more spread out the color will be, and the lower the radius is, the more concentrated the color will be on the spot you painted it at. Once I'm done light painting, I will begin doing noise reduction on the background. I start by saving a copy of the main image so I can clone stamp from it. I do this so I can recover any lost details on the main subject after I do the noise reduction. To select the background, I'll go over to Select, Color Range, and click on the background. As you can see, the hairs on the fly and part of the leaf that I want sharp are soft from the noise reduction, but since I already clone stamped from the copy, recovering those details is pretty simple. With this photo, my goal was to give the colors some life, especially the background, because it's a pale yellowish green and I don't really like it. It just looks really plain in my opinion, and I feel like a greener tint would definitely look better. And I do this by increasing the vibrance and making color corrections in color balance and selective color, the same tools I used in the last edit. Another goal with this photo was to put more emphasis on the natural backlight and the bokeh. I do this by light painting like I did in the previous edit. For this particular photo, I wanted to have the light come from the top left of the frame and paint the opposite side a dark gray. The dark gray really helped a lot with making the bokeh stand out more. After that, I will repeat my noise reduction process and make some small color and exposure adjustments afterwards, and then I'm done. With this photo, I went with a portrait orientation crop since this mantis was standing straight up and looking directly at the camera. This image also has a dark background instead of a bright, colorful background like the other two photos, so my goal with this edit was a little different. My goal was to simply make the details and colors on the face stand out more. Notice how the highlights on the face make the details hard to see? I can easily fix this by sharpening the image and toning down the highlights. Overall, this was a pretty simple edit, just basic color and exposure adjustments, and sometimes that's all you need to do for a result you're satisfied with. A few things to remember from this video is to really make your images pop. The biggest key is to bring life to the colors in your photo by adjusting the vibrance and exposure, and also making sure the subject in your photo is nice and sharp. But before you even begin to edit, the most important thing is to make sure you get the photo right in camera. And what I mean is to make sure your photo is properly exposed and your subject is sharp. Having a properly exposed and sharp photo will make the editing process a lot easier. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if it was, then make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.